No matter if you work in recruiting, IT, sales, internal or external sales, general admin, marketing, no matter where you work, you all use software. And software needs updates from time to time. There are certain issues when it comes to that, as we all know, certain problems. And of course, there are certain solutions. And that's our topic of this week, how to deal with software implementation. Software, of course, needs to be updated. There's no question about that. However, when you sit, and let's just think of your private computer at home, when you sit at home and suddenly either your smartphone or your desktop computer or your laptop says, hey, what about having an update now? Your answer usually will be click later or click no thank you. And you usually do that until sooner or later your computer says, look, it's 7 days until there's a fourth update, 5 days, 3 days, 1 day. And often people wait until the very last minute to update to a new system. And we need to talk about how this affects organizations in a good or in a bad way, depending on how you approach software implementation in your organization. Because we can clearly say there will be higher demands, regulatory compliance, software architecture. It's not always possible to just go with a small update. Some pieces of software can't be made safe and secure anymore. The architecture isn't anymore an approach which could be chosen today. There's no small update possible. You have to restart or choose a completely new software and migrate your system. And of course, the demands of users, the users' demands grow as well. Just think of, and I'm now going back a bit in time, and some people will now think, oh, is it one of these grandpa and his old car story? No, it's not going to be one of these. It's when you think of only Office 2003, Microsoft Office 2003 to 2007, it was where people said, well, they changed the whole Surface. That's really bad. They shouldn't have done that. We all want to keep the old Surface. And let's face it, looking at where we are today, you do not want to go back to the old Surface, do you? Because the old Surface was outdated. It was not really, basically you knew things by heart, following clicks that were not even logical. So the new Surface, the new interface the software has is a lot more tangible and a lot easier to understand, and also makes it possible to work a lot quicker. Now we have to talk about how to approach software implementations in your organization. And first, we need to look at some foundations. First, the question if is not there. I often hear people who say, oh, we need to talk about, do we really have to go down the route of all this modern stuff? There's always a traditional approach. And then, of course, you say we're a conservative industry. We're a traditional organization. And that never led to anything which was sustainable. I can tell you there's always one person in the organization who tells you about, oh, on a regional TV program, I saw this tiny hotel somewhere near my village and they thrive and they are all booked out and they still have clipboards at the reception. It works so tremendously well. Let's face it, when you are a corporation or even when you are a mid-sized or small-sized company, you have global competition. Everyone is able to sell anywhere, nearly anywhere on the globe in today's times, connected via the internet. If you think that you want to compete in a global competition, if you want to go to the market in a global competition with a clipboard, I wish you all the best of luck because you will need it. There is no discussion if. We have to approach the IT aspect if we like it or not. And by the way, if you deny IT progress, you will fail on the market. We have enough examples of that on the market. And of course, that does not mean that the IT can force anything they want upon you. When you go for the opposite and you allow the IT to do anything they like, you have something which is called hobbyism. Hobbyism means you have a couple of tech people who are very keen on having the newest stuff in the organization. And what they do is, as soon as they see something, it's called shiny new object syndrome. They see something new in some industry fair or expert and say, oh, we need that. That is cutting edge technology. We need that immediately. Of course, you don't need to be that quick depending on your business model. So when you now want to approach software implementation, what's the preparation? The first thing you have to look for is opinion leadership. No matter how strong you try to make people move towards your goal, opinion leadership is a must-have in software implementation, no matter how you want to approach it. No opinion leadership means no success. Opinion leadership are the people who are on paper, or when you look at the org chart, they are not leaders on paper. So formally, they are just someone. However, the whole department, the whole team, the whole business unit listens to these people. And you probably now think of some people in your organization where you know Yeah, that they are not leaders on that. They are not formally proclaimed leaders, but anyone is listening to them. When they say no, the whole team says, "Yeah, I think it's a no." And when they say yes, the whole team will say, "Yeah, I think it's a good idea." So opinion leadership, you have to check in every single business unit, team, and department. Of course, you can ask different people who know their teams better than you. When you are a senior executive, you do probably not know every single team and board and every single business unit and team member by yourself. So ask people who do know them. A couple of questions you have to ask yourself. First, who are the people anyone's listening to? But also you need someone who's motivated. So who do you think is someone who has a reasonable level of motivation and also who has a clue about IT? And it doesn't mean that they need to be tech savvy to an expert level. But when you have someone who is someone where people listen to and someone who's motivated, but they absolutely have no access to IT and no understanding of IT whatsoever, they will most likely not be very helpful. What you're looking for is key users, supporters, people who multiplicate, who can be multipliers for you and the knowledge. And often you have more than one key user. When you, for example, say, hey, we need a social person, the person people listen to, and then we need a more tech savvy person. So we choose these two people. One is a bit more tech savvy. The other one is the one who is the social leader, not on paper, but in reality, they listen to that person. So you have two key leaders, two key users. Keep it that way. Do not only have one key user, because then often you go for the tech nerd who knows everything, but no one's listening to that person. And they all just say, well, that's the person that has one hobby, which is called computers at home. We can't relate to that person. And then you're not going to have any successful implementation. Opinion leadership, however, is not enough. You need management commitment. And what I often hear is that senior executives say, yeah, it's an IT project. They're handling this. It's not on the board level. It's their project, and that never works. If you do not have management commitment, it always ends up with a shortage on either time or staffing or budget. The minimum 3 levels of management commitment must be excellent timing, excellent staffing, excellent budget. If you do not have that management commitment, and that is, by the way, not all of it, it would be way better if management would say, we are actively involved. I'm using the software by myself. I'm volunteering to be a key user at least a limited amount of time per week. I'm actively contributing to the project, not only with reporting, but with being actively involved. So there's a lot higher levels of management commitment available. The bare minimum is time, staffing, budget, management commitment. That is the bare minimum. So when you have these two, then, of course, you can start the project, and we're now not getting into details of should you use this Kanban board or that mood board or this project management approach or that, because there are many project management approaches out there, and you can choose from a wide variety. Just have a standard. That is very important. Have a standard which is actively communicated. And here we have the core aspect of success for software implementation: transparent communication. You need regular updates, an open, honest, and proactive communication when it comes to positive or negative aspects. Positive aspects might be that you celebrate successes. Negative aspects might be that you say, hey, we have a certain update which we cannot do during live hours. So who is volunteering to be here on a Saturday? And by the way, it might be a day from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So not the greatest Saturday you probably have thought of, but we need someone who helps us here. And that is also proactive communication, telling people what is needed at which moment in time. Then, of course, you need active participation of professional trainers and coaches, people who accompany your people in the learning process. By the way, if you now think of the $49, some online class which you grab cheaply from some random website, and you say, oh yeah, here's the online class. We call it e-learning, by the way. These kind of videos are not e-learning because they are a video on the internet. So when you say, oh, we have these videos, click through these videos and you know everything you need, that is an invite to anyone who criticized you before to tell you, I told you in advance, you're not committing. And here we are, you're not committing. You need people who help anyone during the time of transitioning from one system to the other. Because often you have a transitioning phase where you say, this is the old system. During that time, you can use both systems, or at that point in time, we have a switch, because sometimes you don't have a transitioning phase. Sometimes you just have a phase where you say old software, and on that day, click, it's the new software, and you have to use it if you like it or not. And an online video is not going to answer the questions that people have in real life. So when you think you just go by the cheapest training offer, or you have a really bad leadership team who just goes by the cheapest offer, no qualified or competent leader would ever do that. But there are a lot of people out there who are neither qualified nor competent on the leadership level. So when you have people going for the cheapest option, it simply means what you think you saved in money, you will lose double, triple, and quadruple, five times as much you will lose on support cases, on employee turnover in IT, and on non-productive moments in the office where people simply say, I'm out of this, up to the level where they say, I just call in sick for a week and then I come back and hopefully the whole thing has settled until then. So that is how you implement the whole aspect. There is one very important phrase here, which is called, it's never a tech problem. Because it never is. There are two main aspects, complicated aspects and complex aspects. And tech can be complicated. I agree. When I look into a car engine, it is very complicated. I am not an engineer, so it's complicated. However, complicated means if you really learn, you will understand it sooner or later. It is just the amount of effort you have to put into that. So complicated means it can be learned by just reading, knowledge. Complex, however, means that you have certain aspects which are beyond your control. You do not know what the acceptance will be. You do not know what the mood of staff will be. You do not know how people perceive the software. You do not know how people perceive the communication you send towards them. So you have to deal with complicated aspects, but even more importantly, you have to deal with complex aspects of any project you have. And that means you need to be able to handle this project on a soft skill level a lot more than on a hard skill level. And that is the crucial mistake that many people do. They think it's an IT project, so hard skill knowledge is the only thing they need. They need the knowledge. However, with no soft skills, you will fail. And these soft skills are needed on all levels in the organization. And I now wish you all the best implementing these aspects in your organization. Very important is always stick to the line. It's never a tech problem. And from here, all the best. And of course, when you now say, well, that's quite complex, isn't it? Yes, as I said, it's complex. Feel free to contact me if you have anything you'd like to have discussed. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. You also find my email address in the show notes of this podcast. Below there, you also find my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on there, and then we can discuss anything you like. If you prefer to have a live discussion, we have live sessions every single month. Feel free to just tune in. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, you find everything you need to see when do these sessions take place and how can I access them. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com and you put in your email address in there, you only receive one email per week. Every Wednesday morning, it's 100% content, ad-free guarantee. It's available, by the way, you can bring colleagues, of course. It's available in English and in the English and German language. So you have the chance to bring in colleagues as well. However, the third aspect is the most important one, and that's the one I always mention at the end of my podcast. Apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspects coming into your organization and the positive change that you obviously want to have in your organization. I wish you all the best doing so. Let me know if you need any help and contact me 24/7. I'm always available and happy to help you in any way I can. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.